Deborah is a much sought after international expert within the field of holistic healing, author of the Repair Toolkit, a refreshing breakthrough process that takes the reader on a journey towards self empowerment. She is also a seasoned motivational and inspirational speaker and facilitator. Deborah has been in the field of health and wellness for more than 2 decades and has gained practical experience spanning across Asia, Africa, Australia, Europe, Middle East, Caribbean, North and Central America. She's extensively qualified as an Integrative Reprogramming Technique (IRT) facilitator, a science-based self-treatment methodology that comprises very simple yet powerful tools to create permanent change within you. She's also a qualified Bikram Yoga instructor, nutritionist, and instructor of advanced breathing techniques for self-healing. Deborah holds a degree in psychology from the University of British Columbia.
Ooh, so happy to have you here, Debbie, for
Thank
the
you so
Healer Hub
much for
podcast.
having me. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, it's absolutely amazing to have you here. So our listeners know a little bit about you, but I would love to know from your perspective, what is your story and how did you get to becoming a, how would you call yourself? Holistic practitioner, something to englobe everything that you are
Yeah.
doing?
Well, basically, my background has always been in health and wellness. And I started teaching yoga more than 2 decades ago. And it snowballed from there because I became very interested in wellness of the body and the mind and how the two stay connected, right? And
Yeah.
so from, teaching yoga, I also went back to school and I did a degree in psychology. And because I wanted to know about how do we function, right? And so that's how the journey started, just wanting to know more about me, really. And so as I discovered more things about myself, I was like, yeah, there's a lot of people that don't know this information, you know. And so basically that's how it started snowballing into all the things that I do now as well. And so when I first graduated, I wanted to go in the direction of becoming a psychologist. But, you know, having already have the background of yoga and meditation, I also understood the power that we have to heal ourselves.
Mhm.
And so I kind of took a little detour and I went into this path of self-healing. So basically, the technique that I teach and use is called Integrative Reprogramming Technique. And what that is literally, we all have a story. Like if you think about a computer, okay, so the computer is just this box. The computer needs a program to run so that you can use it. And we are the same. We have this body, but we need a program so that we can run. So this program, scientists are now saying that this program basically is downloaded by the time that we are 7 years old. So we all come with a preconditioned program. And so when you're a child, you don't necessarily discern what you're taking in. You're just taking it in and you're taking it in unconsciously. So you're not even aware of it. Okay. So just later in your life, when you start acting in a certain way, you know, have preference for some things and not other things, these are all based then on this program. Mm-hmm. And this program is really the big problem for us because if you followed a little bit what Buddha said, he said there are only two reasons that we are miserable and that we are suffering in this world. And that's because of what we like and what we don't like. So the conditioning is such that what I like, I kind of run after, and what I don't like, I kind of want to push away and run away from. And so the whole life we're doing this based on the conditioning. And there is a way out, but we don't know that because we're not aware that we're running on this program. So anyway, so the integrative reprogramming technique is literally just that. It's becoming aware of your program and then making a choice. What works for me? What is good for me? And what doesn't work? What can I let go of? But until we get to that place where we can make a decision, our lives will never change. And so for me, that was way more interesting. So I went in that direction. And so far in the last 12 years, all the people that I've had the privilege to work with, it's been wonderful to see because people are and have the capacity to heal themselves. But we don't know. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't know that.
Does it work on physical healing, like healing the body through IRT, the Integrative Reprogramming Technique?
I believe, obviously, there is a connection between the physical and the mental. And so many practitioners will say that by the time disease comes out in your body, it's already been created. So I would say people can work on both ends. They can work on the physical and the mental to create healing. But for sure, when you start to, I always call it like this, when you start to clean out your mind from all the toxic thoughts that we have from day to day, I believe that will give us better health.
It's really interesting because a lot of the terms that you are using are very familiar from the Buddhist philosophy, because I was trained by Theravada Buddhist monks to lead meditation. And exactly this. And this is something that also appears in Tony Robbins' programs, where we are running towards the things that we want, that we are passionate about, or we are running from the things that we don't want to have. You are mentioning this program. Is it really one program that we are running, and is it the conditioning that we are receiving from 0 to 7, and then we continue running the same program, or are there like different sub programs?
Yes, correct. There obviously are. We also, as we get older, we add some more, but the basic program is laid down. So your innate basic, and that's why, I don't know if you've noticed, when we have deep rooted relationships, like with mother and father, brothers and sisters, because the relationship with them is from the beginning. Okay. So a lot of us, like, let's say, we're going to run away from that situation because we didn't like what they triggered in us. And so we go off into the world and we try and find other people, other friends, and we even make new families. Okay. Because that's what we do. And then before long, we find ourselves in that same position with that same, I need to run away from this. Okay. Because the problem is us. It's not outside of us. And so those programs, those sub-programs we add later as well. But the basic program is the same. So the deepest roots of the problems that we always keep, I would say, they keep happening to us, comes from that basic years, the first 7 years. So, for example, if you look at relationships can tell you a lot about a person. So let's say if you had a father who was an alcoholic, and maybe the father was abusive, and you started to hate that alcoholic father because you just, as a child, you're vulnerable, and adults they're so big and they like the gods, and then you are not getting the safety and the security that we need. So now you started to think in your head, I hate him, he's not good enough, he's whatever the stories you make up. Okay. So literally 2 things will happen in your life. You're either going to become exactly like that, or you're going to be completely against people like that. Why? Because she created the strong belief around it. So that's why I'm saying. So then that story is going to follow you your whole life. Okay. And then the sub stories, like you said, we add a little bit of sub stories here and there, but the basic stories come from that early years.
Yeah. And I wonder if this is an example of a program. Yeah. Somebody who was brought up in a household where one of the parents was alcoholic, and they grew up with a lot of uncertainty and feeling unsafe. And is it that they are drawing a conclusion about who they are in the world through the relationship that they built with that primary caretaker? And also something that comes up, because I see it also with my clients, that we as children, we don't have the filters of the rational analytical mind that we developed afterwards, right? So
correct,
like we develop a story about men in general, about alcoholics in general, about alcohol in general, right? So
correct. So what happens is, because you were so vulnerable, it's a very vulnerable time in your life, most people are not willing to change their mind. So because they're not willing to change their mind about that story follows them in either way. And you become judgmental towards people. Now, if you understand the backstory of that, perhaps, but as a child, you don't know that, because now, let's say your father was maybe abused, or your father's father was an alcoholic, and so he almost has no chance. That's just how he ends up. So you can't have compassion for him because you're just the one that needs safety and security at 3 and 4 and 5 years old. But now when you get a little older and you can understand a little bit better and you can have more compassion, perhaps you can forgive your father. And through this forgiveness, your life will be better. But if we never go there and we never choose to choose something different, your life will be the same.
Yeah.
Right? So the responsibility, ultimately, here's the big word, responsibility. It's a big word because a lot of people don't want to take it on because there's this illusion that the other person should, do something to me because they hurt me. But it's your responsibility to reach out and to heal yourself. Mm-hmm. And if that means forgive somebody, forgiveness is not for the other, forgiveness is for yourself. Yeah. And then, of course, once you go deeper into this, you will see that there was really nothing to forgive, that everything was exactly perfect as it was, and that every experience that you had was meant for you, and that every person in your life merely plays that role. They're acting out a role so that you can have the experiences that you need to grow and to become aware and awake of who you are. Because the ultimate problem for us as humans is the lack of knowing who we are. We do not know who we are. And so, we hook into many different identities in the world. And that's what's causing also the suffering and the pain. Yeah. But once you get an idea, like we can start from very basic. Once you start with the basic idea of, okay, I have a body, I have a mind, I have feelings, I have emotions, but I am the one that's experiencing them. I am not those feelings, emotions, and feelings. And that's a number one step I always say to everybody that I meet. You have to be able to create a distance between your feelings, thoughts, emotions, and who you are. For example, you can see me here on the camera. If I say to my arm, okay, move right, move left, the arm is moving right and left on my command. Who is that I that's commanding my arm? That's who you are. You are the one that's experiencing the emotions. You're experiencing the thoughts, but you are not the thoughts. You are behind the thoughts and you can direct them. And it's very powerful. So remember the word I said, responsibility. So if you can understand your role and how it's your responsibility, your happiness is your responsibility, then you're going to take the discipline for that. Okay, what do I have to do? I have to accept everything that comes into my life and I can move forward from there.
Yeah, it's really beautiful because in theory, I can grasp all these concepts, and by working with clients and coaching them through this process of understanding that I can have an emotion, but that is not me. It's an emotion that I have. So, for example, I am not angry. I just experienced anger in this particular situation, right? It's a very interesting process, but it can also come with a lot of guilt. What I found for people, right? Because sometimes we are just not able to forgive, for example, or we are just not there yet to accept how we are feeling about certain things. So, how would you speak to this resistance that could come up in the process of I really want to move past, but I cannot. I feel that I cannot.
Exactly. And you know what? For those people, I say it's okay. Mm-hmm. As long as you are, in a way, when you're giving them the information, you are planting a little seed. And just like how you plant any seed, you give it a little water, you give it a little sunshine, you never know when it's going to take off, when it's going to start blooming. So this technique I also use when I teach yoga. So when I'm teaching a yoga class, I have zero expectation of what people are going to experience because it has nothing to do with me. I'm just doing the class and they are having their own experience. And there can be 100 people in the class and every person will have a different experience because the experience is about where they are. So never force anybody to be where they are not. You can give the information, but it's up to them. That's why I said healing has to come from you. Nobody can heal you. So you can hear the information and maybe it'll take a year for that information to, percolate. And then, so I always say to people, here's the thing. You have a choice. If you choose, you can become free. If you choose, you can stay in suffering. It's up to you. If you want to continue to stay in suffering, that's okay. But here's the solution, how to get out. So when you feel ready, and most people, like, two things are going to happen for them. The pain is so bad that they have to take the way out, or the pain is so bad and they die. That's not choices you have. So when people are not ready, I always say, have compassion for yourself. You're not ready for this information, but just sit with it and see, what will happen. So never forcing everybody, because we all are at different places. There's no judgment if you can do it right now.
Yeah.
At all. Because everybody is exactly where they are meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. But I always give people the choice. Suffering, freedom. You choose. Right?
Yes.
And sometimes in the world, people think that the suffering is because of others. And we're giving you a way out. We're saying, did you know you can do something to stop your suffering? Because I guarantee it to you, most people do not know that they have a say in it. They just think it's happening to them, because I was one of those people. Mm-hmm. When I was in my mid-20s, I was like drowning in my life. Okay? Because I didn't know that I could do something. I didn't know that my freedom and my happiness actually lies within my reach. It's in my hands. I didn't know that I was the salve to apply to my wounds. I didn't know that. And so many people don't know. So we just give the information, and it's up to them how they take the information, when they want to use the information, and so on. It's not for us to judge when they should be ready for it. That's my answer to your question.
So I'm curious about this period in your life when you were 20 and you felt that you were drowning in your own life.
Yeah. Do you want to hear a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm really curious, because it feels that that was the turning point.
That was the pivotal time. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I think I was always very connected to my spirituality since I was very young, like at 5 years old. I remember looking up. I was born and raised in Cape Town, South Africa. So beautiful there. I looked up one day and I was like 5 years old. So I'm like, what am I doing here? Where am I? And where's God? Like literally asking, like, what am I doing here? It felt like I was just dropped there like an alien, right? And so, yeah, I was always very connected to the God consciousness in myself. But, you grow up and you become a teenager and you go after all these things that we do in this age. And but I found myself when I was in my 20s, I really felt like I was drowning. So I'll give you a little background. So in South Africa in those years, South Africa was basically a country that was run by apartheid. So people of color like myself, Black people and so on, there were certain things and areas we couldn't go. Because in the 1960s, they came out with this law. The government actually made it a law. And like literally, I remember when I was 16 years old, I was traveling on the train, and before that I didn't really know so much about apartheid because we lived in just our area and all the people that lived there looked like me, and I didn't think anything of it. But as you get older, you see all these things. So there was a bench that said whites only. So that means if you're not a white person, you cannot sit there. So basically, being raised in this apartheid system, didn't really know too much about it. But, when I get older, I see what's happening. And then, so what happens is later in your life, like when I was in my 20s, I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel happy with my life, the boyfriend, the government. Like there's so many things, the family, the parents, like you name it. There's just things that you're not happy with. And it felt like I was drowning in my life. And at that time, when I was in my mid-20s, I was very fortunate in that I started to meditate. For some reason, I just I started to meditate, and I went to this talk, and there was a talk by this person, I forget his name, but he was a kinesiologist, and he actually visited South Africa from USA. And him and his wife, he was retired, and so she just traveled with him, and he did these talks. And basically, the first person I ever heard this say, what I actually said to you earlier on, is like, we are like computers. And he didn't talk about the downloads like I know now. He just said that you're a computer, and if you're not happy with your printout, you can change it. Because the only thing is don't blame the printer, which means don't blame your life. Okay, because the printer has nothing to do with the printout. The printer is only printing out what the program is. Okay. And he basically said that you have the power to change your own program. When he literally said that, two things happened to me. First, I was like, there's no way you can do that. And I became very scared. But there was this feeling of, oh my God, I can help myself. Okay. Yeah. And so from that time onwards, literally, I can probably say is I went on this journey of self-discovery. I went on this journey of wanting to know who I am. And it took 3 decades. And it still continues, of course, but it's so much easier when you know what you are responsible for. And as you start to work on those things within yourself, life on the outside just becomes effortless. And that's why I do what I do, because I understand why people get stuck in misery and get stuck in pain and suffering, because I was there too.
Yeah, it's really
I was there too. Yes.
Yeah.
And I also know that here's the thing. It's very simple. It's not easy. The way out is very simple. The other thing that the mind does is that the mind makes up all these grand stories, like, oh, over there, and when over there, it's like somewhere over outside of yourself is all the answers. It's not true. The answers all lie within you. And it's very simple. It's so simple, you will just like, what? Yeah. But it's not easy. Why? Because it's not easy because of our conditioning and our habits and our patterns and our thinking process. So that's why I wrote this book. It's called the Self-Repair Toolkit. And here we really focus on what are you responsible for? Okay, so if somebody comes along and they triggers in me some feeling that I don't like, immediately when I was younger, I would lash out at the person. But now I know better. Now I say, okay, I watch that and I see, oh, there's still some work to do. Mm-hmm. And zero blame for the person on the outside. But this takes time. To work on this. And, and once you see, like when I have clients, the best thing is like when they come and see me and I give them the tools, like immediately they get results, benefits. Because we underestimate ourselves all the time. We do not know how much power we have. We do not know that we have the capacity for healing. You can do anything. Like literally.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, and it's really wonderful to hear you say that. And I hope that the people who will listen to this, I hope that this is gonna be the seed, the bamboo seed that is gonna be planted, and hopefully
that's
it will
all
take
we're doing.
Less than 7 years.
We just plant the seeds, and I think what I would love to share with the listeners that it's okay where you are. It's okay where you are. Because the God in you, the God in us is always there. Whenever you're ready to connect, you will just be there. The pain and the suffering really is an illusion. Once you get out of the illusion, the pain and the suffering will go. And you will see that you are always as you have been. That nothing has changed. You are always as you have been, perfect. Okay? And all these other things that we chose to believe, once you drop that, the suffering and the pain will just go, because we're making it up. We're making up a lot of things. That's the other thing I would always say to people, like literally you're making all this up. Don't you want to make up something nice? Something better? Now that you know better, you can do better.
Yeah, it's really beautiful when you shift and you give the mind, because the mind is a very strong creator. And it's really beautiful when you shift the role from the mind just trying to keep you safe and creating all these like small related and smallness narratives into giving it an empowering narrative, or the possibility to create an empowering narrative. Yeah,
correct. And once you understand the mind better, like it's very simple again. So the mind itself is really not powerful. The mind itself is just doing its job, which the job of the mind is to create thoughts 24/7. That's what it does. It's this big machine and it just keeps going, working. When you bring your awareness to the thoughts, that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
You are the powerful, not the thoughts. You give
Yeah.
power to the thoughts. So when you choose, again, listen to this, people. You choose what you give power. And that becomes your thing. Whether it's something negative or positive, you are the one that chooses. Okay? So one of the things that I always say, wherever I go, whenever I'm interviewed, I always say to people, if one of the best things you can ever do in your life is just start meditating daily. If it's only 10 to 12 minutes a day, 15 minutes, 20 minutes is really great. But if you can only do 12 minutes, please start today. Because once you start meditating, you are going to get a glimpse of this little thing called mind and all the thoughts that it keeps spewing out. And over time, you're going to be able to watch these thoughts. Just like you watch clouds in the sky, they're going to come and they're going to go. And you're going to see yourself acting on them less. Right? And that's powerful. Because you will see, oh, I am not that thought. Because, something will happen. Let's say when you were 15 years old, you had a boyfriend and had a red car. And then some other girl stole him from you, whatever. And so whenever you see a red car, you just get triggered. Oh, it reminds you of that guy who left you for this girl. And you're scarred for life, right? So the mind, that's what the mind does. It tries to repeat that story. Oh, it's an old story. It's been 20 years and you still can't get over it. Okay? That's what mind does. So now when that story is triggered, you watch that story and you don't act in the same way. You just say, I see it. It's okay. So you have to be the boss of your mind. You have to be the boss of your mind. And you have to direct the thoughts.
Yeah, that's really powerful. So
Yes.
let's try to give the listeners the experience. IRT.
Yeah, okay. So here's the thing. Okay, so with the reprogramming technique, so basically I'll give you a little sample here today. I want you all to think about something in your life that has upset you. So it can be a relationship, perhaps with a friend, a lover, a mother, father, family member. It doesn't matter what it is. And I want you to try to bring up the emotion that you're feeling. It could be jealousy, it could be resentment, it could be fear, anything that's a negative thought that is connected to this feeling and this experience that you have. And I just want you to, in your own mind, think about how much that is upsetting you. So perhaps if you think on a line of 1 to 10, maybe it's upsetting you at 10 being the worst. Maybe it's a 5, maybe it's a 6, maybe it's a 7, or it could be a 10, it could be an 8 or a 9. Just I want you to register, how does that feel, that feeling? And just sit with that for a minute. And I just want you to start focusing on your breath. And I want you to repeat after me. I acknowledge the association between my feelings of whatever it is that you're feeling. Jealousy, greed, resentment, whatever it is. And my safety, security, survival, and freedom. Back to its place of origin. Back to the beginnings of time. In my highest and best interests. And just relax. And if possible, just become aware. There might be a slight sensation in the chest area. And just allowing that energetically to leave your cells. And you might want to check in on that number. It's possible that number dropped 1 or 2. We don't know because I'm not with you. But I want you to repeat it again after me. I acknowledge the association between my feelings, and then you can call out your feelings. And my safety, security, survival, and freedom. Back to its earliest point of origin. Back to the beginnings of time. In my highest and best interests. And just relax. Just try to keep your attention in the chest area. Usually the heart chakra there will be some movement. And one more time. You got to repeat this loud. Okay. I acknowledge the association between my feelings of and my safety, security, survival, and freedom. Back to its earliest point of origin, back to the beginnings of time, in my highest and best interests. And relax. Use your breath and allow that negative feelings, emotions to leave you. And slowly and gradually, and when you feel ready, you can open the eyes. So most people should have felt a complete, like let's say if it was a 10 for you, it would have come down to a 5. And that's basically how powerful you are. When you make an affirmation like this, when you are true to yourself, when you are really wanting to let go, it will go. You have the power to heal yourself. You are the self that you're needing to heal. Not someone else, not someone else's love or acceptance of you, but you. Your love and your acceptance of yourself is what you need. That's it. And the more you love and accept yourself, the more you're going to, as a result, love everybody around you. So when your cup is running over, it's in the Bible that said, your cup runneth over, then you can give joyfully to others because you're not running on empty. So first you have to take care of yourself. Then we can take care of others. A lot of women in particular, we don't know how to do that. We're running around doing everything for our children, and then we die and the children are crying. It's like you should have taken better care of yourself because children can take care of themselves after some time. We don't have to do everything for them anymore. Right? But for mothers, it's hard to make that transition. But we have to.
Yeah, it's also the way that we have been conditioned as women now to take care of everybody else's needs.
Is that program 1 to 7?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I was saying that probably there are like sub-programs that we developed, and then like, okay, in my role as a wife, this is the program that I'm running. In my role as a daughter, this is the program that I'm
correct. Absolutely correct. Yeah. Absolutely correct. Yeah.
So we can redo this experience that you've just
over and over for anything. Over and over for anything at any time. Find a space and just use that affirmation. It's called a verbal affirmation. It's very powerful.
Yeah. So I'm curious about what you find rewarding in the work that you carry out in the world.
What's working?
Rewarding. Yes.
Yeah. Oh Lord, that is such a good question because it's the reason I get up in the morning. Because it's kind of funny. It's like once you kind of, it's kind of like a puzzle, finding out who you are and what's happening, and then once you solve the puzzle in a way, it's like, oh, okay. But the thing that keeps me very inspired here in this body in this time is the fact that there are many people like me when I was in my 20s who don't know. And that I can somehow, whoever I can reach, I can share the information with them. And I can say there's a way out. And you are your way out. And so like I said, I developed this book. It's a very simple book. Again, like it's so simple. And you just start doing these tools in this book. And it's going to, because what happens to us, Anca, is many things are hidden from us. We cannot see. That's why people come from the outside and show you yourself. And sometimes you don't like what you see because it's hard for us to see ourselves. Okay. So once you can understand how you function and like that word that I mentioned, once you can take responsibility for that, I guarantee you there's freedom. I guarantee you there's peace, there's joy, there's happiness, because these are all attributes of who you are. That you are joy, you are peace, you are happiness, but you don't know because you have been conditioned to think that those things lie outside of yourself and you have to run after them, and you are not worthy of that. That's a big problem. We don't feel worthy of good things. We don't feel worthy of having a good marriage. We don't feel worthy of having good relationships. We don't feel worthy of being successful in business. We don't feel worthy to have children. All these things we don't feel worthy. All the things that we're struggling with. You know? So once you understand that I am worthy of all these and I am all these, then things will just happen. So for me, it's an absolute honor. Even one person, if they can hear this message and be inspired to take that journey towards themselves. It's a very short journey. Like, think about it, from your head, from your thinking and thoughts, to your heart. It's a very short journey. Just go there. Make that journey towards yourself and you will discover your true nature. And when you discover your true nature, everything else in your life is going to turn around. Because, in our life, in our daily life, we are trying to fix so many things. But it's like all putting little band-aids on. You're just putting some band-aid on. You're not getting to the root of the problem. Because the root is you. You are the root. You have to go that deep. So whenever things are coming from the outside and they're still showing you, oh, there's more work, you say, okay, I can do that. Instead of blaming the world and blaming other people. Because that does not give you freedom. That puts you into victim mode. And there's no freedom there.
Yeah.
So for me, ultimately, that's what makes me I'm very passionate about that people should know who they are. Because I can see the God in you, and I will continue to show it to you until you see it yourself. That's basically what I'm passionate about.
So how do you go about unworthiness? Because I think that this is a capital one.
Well, basically, it's like not even just a job for me. It's just who I am. So I go out and that's who I am. Like whoever I meet, that's who I am. So it's like if I'm having a conversation with somebody at a tea shop, or if I'm having a podcast, if I'm having a live Facebook meditation, if I'm in a workshop, it's not, I don't act different in different scenarios. It's the same.
Mm-hmm. As in, you were mentioning that some people do not feel worthy of having the life that they dream to have. So
correct.
What is the process of
that? Yeah.
Of sinking into worthiness.
Yeah. Basically, if you don't feel worthy, it's something to do with your conditioning, right? Remember that first 7 years. And a good place to start, like I said, is actually the book that I wrote is going to help people to uncover a lot of those things and what they can do to change it. And literally, you have a choice. You can change it. Because let's say you're 5 years old and you come from a family that doesn't have a lot of money and you struggled. And then maybe your neighbors had a lot of money and you always felt like you were not worthy because you're poor and da-da-da. And so you believe that. So now you get a little older and sometimes you get there and then just before you get like that, big breakthrough, you sabotage yourself. Because the conditioning is, the acceptance is that I am not worthy of that. So that story underneath is what's keeping you from living the life that you want to live. So you have to become aware of, when did I create that story? And it could be when I was 3, when I was 5, when I was 16. So your job is to make the journey within, because here's the other thing that I'd like to share with everybody, is that the intelligence that runs through this entire universe, guess what? It runs through you. So guess what? Whatever you want to know, you just ask and it will be shown to you. So if you are sincere and truthful, you ask, it will be given to you. Maybe it will come through a teacher, maybe it'll come through a book, maybe it will come through somebody just having a conversation with you, but the universe will send the information. I guarantee it to you.
Yeah,
so whatever it is that you feel, whatever you feel you don't know, just ask. It's very simple. Even Jesus said that, just ask. Our problem is we don't ask because we think we have to do everything, and literally we don't really do anything, but there's an illusion that we're doing something.
Yeah. So in your journey up to this moment, who did you find inspiring and why did you find them inspiring?
Well, there's a few people, but I would have to say the first two people are my parents. My mother and always inspired me, and she still does, because my father used to be at sea, and so he was away a lot. So my mother had 7 children that she raised. And I tell you, man, like, I was always in awe of my mother because I don't know how she did it. Like, how do you do this? Right? And so, yeah, have really inspired me, and how, even though it was hard, she never gave up on her children and her family, and really creating as much as she could the safety and the security that we needed. Like, she's also a human being, of course, and there are some things that she could have done better from my perspective, and maybe from my brother's perspectives, and so on. But I understand that she did exactly what she could, and what she did was 100%. And the same with my father. I mean, by the time they were 25, they had 4 children.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, like, that takes a lot. And then one of my teachers, I have 3 spiritual teachers that's up there for me. One of them is called Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. So he, many years ago, developed a breathing technique called Sudarshan Kriya. So there's lots of Kriyas in India, and he developed this Sudarshan Kriya method, and it's basically a breathing technique. And this breathing technique really is amazing for your health, for that body-mind connection. And so I was very inspired by him, and I visited some of his programs and met with him. And just being in his presence was like, wow, like, there's so much love that emanates from this man. There's so much love. And I was very inspired by that. And actually, when I met him the first time, it's like maybe 25 years or so ago now. And literally I said to myself, that's how I want to be. When people come into my presence, they should just feel love. And I think I'm getting there. A lot of people just randomly, actually just on the weekend, I was out with 2 friends, and one person I haven't met yet. And when we were talking, because as you know, we talk and it comes out about what I do and so, and she was like, oh my God, I'm not surprised that you do this, because I felt so much peace in your presence. So to me, it's like, yeah, okay. So he's one of my people that inspired me. And then there's also, of course, Bikram, because I did my training, my yoga training with him. And I have never seen somebody with so much determination and like, just literally, you have to go beyond your mind. The yoga is so formed so that because it's hard, it's 90 minutes, it's hot. But you can't leave. You have to stay there. You have to go through the discomfort to get to the other side, and know that you have so much strength and so much power. And so I've always admired that. So yeah, and then there's one other person. His name is Amrit Desai, and he's very similar to Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. He has, I think, an ashram in Florida, and I was lucky to meet him once. And the same thing, I was at the back of the room, and I felt just immense love come from this man. And he created a couple of meditations, and especially a yoga nidra meditation that is just out of this world. And so grateful for people like that with their blessings and blessing the world with their gifts. And so I can only hope and pray that I could be even 1% of that. Yeah. So these are the people that have inspired me, very solid, just amazing people.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the work that you do in the world. Thank you for being so determined to be on the path of love. And let's share with the listeners where we can find you on Instagram and your website. And I'm going to add this in the description of the podcast too.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, if anybody wants to reach out, you can reach me. You can email me at Deborah@srtbreakthrough.com, and I'll give you a link for that. And then my website is srtbreakthrough.com. And I'm on Instagram, SRT Breakthrough, as well as Facebook. And then, of course, I also have my private, Deborah Small, on Facebook and Instagram. And the book, if you really want to get the book, it's available on my website. You can download it as a PDF file. That's a more affordable version, or you can order it from Amazon. They ship everywhere in the world. But I think that if you're really on the path towards self-realization and you don't know where to start, this could be a good place for you to start. And yeah, like I said, anytime, reach out. I'm always happy to help. And thank you so much, Anca, for the interview. I so enjoyed it. It was so lovely to see you in person too. And let me know if there's anything else I can help you with.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Have a happy day. Bye.